World Regions Geography 110, Southeast Asia, Part 4. So we're going to talk about the heroin trade and the Golden Triangle. The nice graphic here is the Golden Triangle, and that's the primary heroin opiate poppy growing region. And this region in here, primarily in Burma and Laos, but also a little bit of Vietnam, is the major opium poppy growing region in the world, the other area being Afghanistan. But the trade networks, the trade has existed here for centuries, was largely traded into China and throughout the rest of Southeast Asia, and that trade still exists, still goes into China, goes into Vietnam all the way out, is shipped all over. And recently, these groups that are growing the poppies have begun manufacturing methamphetamines in increasing amounts. The trafficking routes are extensive, as you can see if you look here at the map, and the groups are well armed and ruthless. There's probably not any end in sight for this business other than governments going in and simply burning the place down. Population density, and I want you to pay attention here because this is largely a population that is moving from rural areas into urban areas. What you're going to see here, this island here is extremely densely populated and is the origin of a lot of migrants. But you see a lot of the populations concentrated in a few cities, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Bangkok, Singapore, Manila. So there's a few cities where there's dense population. I mean, the whole Philippines is pretty densely populated, but it basically is caused by a lack of development and employment opportunities outside major cities in Southeast Asia. There's just not a lot to do in terms of generating an income. And so when we look at the intra-regional means staying within the region. So this is migration that stays within Southeast Asia. What you see here is the origin in red and the destination in purple. Remember the island of Java, very densely populated. This is where the people are going. And it's because there's more room and there's more opportunity, a little higher standard of living. So you see a lot of migration in that direction. Now, refugee source. So number of refugees originating in 2014. So here we're using the opposite. So the purple is where refugees are originating, and this is where they're going, to give you an idea of where they're going. So originating countries: Vietnam, Burma, Myanmar, the same, Laos, and Cambodia. And they're going to Malaysia and China. Now, interesting, down here you get into Indonesia, particularly on the island of Java. They're both originating and going to Indonesia. So they're just going to the outerlying islands of Indonesia, but they're originating on the island of Java. External migration. And this is a really big deal in Southeast Asia. You have a lot of Filipino migrants. This is what I call the commodification of migration. I was at a conference at Northwestern where we talked about this a lot. And you see a lot of external migration, not so much from Singapore, but this is where they're going, to Singapore, to Taiwan, to Hong Kong. What you have is migrants, either governments contracting in the Middle East. A lot of these governments are contracting with Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. They're contracting for labor. So like the Saudi government or the Kuwaiti government, Bahraini government, Qatar, United Arab Emirates will say, we'll hire 100,000 people. And the governments recruit people and export them and take a share of the money as government revenue. Not only that, they're often abused and enslaved where they end up, particularly in the Middle East. They're treated like slaves. There's been a lot of cases where migrants have been killed by their employers, have not been paid, or kept in a small room with barely any food, worked for 12 to 20 hours a day. And this is a real issue, but the role of remittances are the money people send home. Remittances is real important. A migrant in these countries can send enough home, even though they don't send that much. It raises the standard of living of their family substantially in their original country. And governments have a very big role. When I was at the conference at Northwestern, we were talking about Vietnam in particular, had signed a contract to export 250,000 people to Saudi Arabia to be laborers to work there for 4 years. And they were taking 25% of the wages, and that was going to the Vietnamese government. And the government was going to use that for whatever purposes they wanted to use it for, but allegedly for development. The Philippines as one of the original countries, they actually had a government website to export people. If you think of people as a renewable resource, a lot of countries feel like they can send people off to work and they can continue to do this over a period of years, and they can export these people and have a real strong revenue stream from that. There's a lot of countries that do this. It's not just in Southeast Asia, it's global. The business of migration is about 200 billion a year. So it's a huge number and growing. And that's it.